So for 20 or more years, people have said emotional intelligence is important. Resilience, decision-making skills, cognitive performance, or emotional intelligence. But in the last decade or so, we started to understand that mindfulness is the how-to. So I've done assessments of individuals before and after they go through MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction interventions, and that's focused on the individuals, and that's quite easy to do. But interestingly enough, we're finding more and more that just assessing the individual before and after such a mindfulness-based intervention doesn't give us the full picture of understanding where, if any, change actually comes from. And so what we're doing nowadays more and more, in addition to looking at the individuals that are targeted through these interventions, we're looking at maybe the managers or the teams as a whole, and we're saying, how mindful are you as a team? How much, for example, do people allow their emotions to be expressed? And what happens when people express emotions? It makes it real for me to understand how people relate to each other, what the kind of the emotional climate is in the organization, what things people value and what things are frowned upon. And so if I then use that in addition to a traditional mindfulness intervention, I might have more of a chance to embed the mindfulness training in with the structure that almost invisibly drives people's actions in addition to the mindfulness training. The places of work are moving faster and faster and faster. And people, a few years ago, when you asked them how busy they were, said, I'm quite busy. And in the last couple of years, when I ask people how they're doing in their organization, they're no longer even saying they're busy, but they're actually saying, I'm overwhelmed, if they're honest. Or they're now seeing busyness as being like the status quo, if not the hero status. I'm busier than you. But it doesn't necessarily make people more effective. And mindfulness practice and mindfulness as a state or a way of being is a little bit the opposite, or the antidote to being moving fast, to being busy. It's actually about being. I study well-being and performance, and that is all about being well and doing well. And happiness is a big part of it, and happiness to me has two components. One, feeling good, but even more importantly, it's about having a life that is satisfying and that is meaningful. And so combining the two is hard to do, but is probably the way to get there. The easiest and quickest instruction that I give to others and to myself is that practicing mindfulness is all about coming to our senses. And it's a bit of a metaphor, but it's also a physical instruction. It's a literal instruction. Get in touch with my body. Feel, rub my hands together. And for a moment or two, notice the sensations in my fingers and in my hand. And that brings me back into the here and now. The people that know how to do this simple instruction, but do it consistently, are more present in their life. And because they're more present, they're actually also more satisfied, because even though it sounds like a paradox, being present even when life is difficult is more satisfying than mentally withdrawing ourselves. I can basically work on myself through either classic loving kindness meditations, become more compassionate to myself or to other people, but I can also practice compassion by directly focusing on the person or the creature in front of me and looking at them and maybe listening, and again through my 5 senses experiencing being with that person. And that, it's almost more simple than what I say. It actually creates a connection. And perhaps that's what in the real world compassion means. It's having a connection.